Atlanta, late 1980s. The Jackson sisters, Aisha and Layla, grow up in a modest house on the outskirts of the city. At first glance, they appear nearly identical, tight curls framing their faces, warm brown skin glowing under the Georgia's sun, smiles bright enough to light up any room. But beneath the surface, they couldn't be more different. Aisha is sunlight personified, effortlessly charismatic, the kind of girl who commands attention the moment she walks into a room. Her laughter rings loud and unapologetic, her hands always moving, sketching, creating. The walls of their shared bedroom are covered in her achievements. Ribbons from track meets, certificates from art competitions, photographs of her standing center stage at school plays. She thrives in the spotlight, absorbing admiration like a flower turning toward the sun. Layla exists in her sister's glow, quiet and watchful. She is the one who gathers Aisha's fallen sketches, who memorizes the speeches Aisha practices in front of the mirror, who sits in the audience clapping the loudest while her sister takes her bows. She keeps a scrapbook, carefully pasting each of Aisha's accomplishments inside, labeling the dates in neat script. It's a ritual of love, but also a quiet act of self-erasure. She doesn't mind being the shadow. At least, that's what she tells herself. Years pass. Aisha graduates with scholarships, her paintings earning her a spot at a prestigious art school. Layla stays closer to home, attending community college, always just a step behind. Then Aisha meets Kyle, a rising architect with a calm demeanor and steady hands. He is drawn to Aisha's fire, the way she fills every room she enters, the fearlessness in her art. Their wedding is small but joyful. Aisha radiant in a simple white dress, Kyle looking at her like she's the only person in the world. Layla watches from the sidelines. She smiles, she toasts, she plays the role of the dutiful sister. But something shifts inside her that day. For the first time, the weight of being second isn't just a quiet ache, it's a hunger. When Kyle laughs at something Aisha says, his eyes crinkling at the corners, Layla catches herself staring. When he touches Aisha's hand, something hot and unfamiliar coils in Layla's chest. She doesn't recognize it at first. Then it takes shape. Envy, yes, but something sharper, more dangerous. The realization settles over her like a slow-spreading stain. She doesn't just want what Aisha has. She wants to be her. Atlanta, 1995. The air hums with the tension of unspoken desires. Aisha moves through her days in a whirlwind of paint and canvas, her entire being focused on the upcoming exhibition that could define her career. The house smells of turpentine and ambition, her fingers permanently stained with color. Kyle supports her quietly, bringing her coffee at midnight, adjusting the studio lights just right, watching her work with admiration glowing in his eyes. Layla watches them both. She notices the way Kyle's gaze lingers on her sometimes when Aisha isn't looking. Just a second too long. Just enough to make her pulse jump. At first, she tells herself it's nothing. Then she starts testing it, leaning closer when she passes him a cup of coffee, letting her fingers brush his as she takes the newspaper from his hands. His breath hitches. She files that reaction away like a secret. The game becomes deliberate. She starts showing up at the cafe near his office, pretending surprise when he walks in. She wears Aisha's perfume sometimes, the one he bought her last birthday. She learns what topics make him lean in: architecture, jazz, the way the light hits old brick buildings in the evening, and steers every conversation toward them. His eyes darken with something dangerous when she talks about the way shadows cling to curves of stone. One afternoon, she finds him in the garden, staring at the roses Aisha planted but never tends. Layla stands beside him, closer than necessary. Their shoulders almost touch. The air between them crackles. "You always notice things other people don't," she murmurs, plucking a dying petal. "The details." Kyle turns his head. His gaze drops to her mouth. "Layla." A rustle at the gate. Aisha stands there, paint streaked across her shirt, her keys dangling from one hand. She takes in the scene, her husband and her sister standing too close, the tension between them thick enough to taste. For a heartbeat, no one moves. Then Aisha does something unexpected. She doesn't scream, doesn't throw anything. She just looks at Layla with an expression that cuts deeper than anger ever could. Disappointment, yes, but worse than that, understanding. As if she's known this would happen all along. She turns and walks back into the house. The screen door slams behind her. Kyle starts forward. Aisha. Layla grabs his wrist. For one wild moment, she thinks he might pull away, but he doesn't. The garden is very quiet. Somewhere, a bird sings. The rose petal crumples in Layla's fist. The house feels different now. The walls seem to whisper Aisha's name when Layla walks through the rooms, her footsteps echoing in spaces that once felt warm. Kyle stays, but his presence is a ghost of what it was. His touch is mechanical, his smiles never reaching his eyes. He moves through their shared life like a man fulfilling an obligation, his passion reduced to quiet resignation. Layla watches him when he doesn't notice. She memorizes the way his fingers pause over Aisha's favorite coffee mug in the morning, the way his gaze drifts toward the studio, now empty, when he thinks no one is looking. At night, she catches him staring at old photographs, his thumb tracing the edges of Aisha's face. The realization settles over her like a slow poison. She has won, but the victory tastes like ash. She tries harder. She wears Aisha's perfume, the one Kyle always loved, spraying on her wrists, her neck, the hollow of her collarbone. She studies Aisha's paintings, attempting to replicate the bold strokes and vibrant colors. But her own work feels hollow in comparison. She even cuts her hair, mimicking Aisha's signature style, hoping to see that same spark in Kyle's eyes when he looks at her. But when he notices, he only says, quietly, "You used to wear it longer," before turning away. The bed feels too large at night. Kyle sleeps on his side, his back to her, the space between them charged with unsaid words. Sometimes, in the dark, Layla reaches for him, her fingers brushing his shoulder, but he tenses beneath her touch. She pulls away, the rejection burning deeper than any insult. Meanwhile, Aisha thrives in her absence. News of her work drifts back to Atlanta, her paintings gaining attention in New Orleans, critics praising the raw emotion in her new collection. Rumors swirl about her life there, a loft in the French Quarter, late nights in jazz clubs, a freedom that Layla can only imagine. The more Aisha flourishes, the more Layla feels herself shrinking, her identity dissolving into the role she fought so hard to claim. Kyle's distance grows. He spends longer hours at work, comes home later, his excuses thin and unconvincing. One evening, Layla finds a sketch tucked in his desk, a quick, careless drawing of Aisha, her laugh captured in a few bold lines. The paper is worn, as if he's unfolded it many times. Layla's hands shake as she holds it, the truth settling over her like a suffocating weight. She has taken her sister's place, but she will never be her. And Kyle, despite staying, has already left. The newspaper feels heavy in Layla's hands, the glossy advertisement for Aisha's exhibition glaring up at her from the art section. The colors bleed together for a moment before her vision clears. Her sister's name in bold letters, the gallery address, the dates. A sharp pain stabs through her chest, but she can't look away. She shouldn't go. But 3 days later, she finds herself standing outside the gallery, her pulse hammering. She pulls her scarf higher, hiding her face, and slips inside with a group of chatting patrons. The space hums with energy, wine glasses clinking, voices murmuring appreciation. The walls are alive with Aisha's work, larger, bolder, more visceral than anything she's done before. Layla moves through the crowd like a ghost, her breath shallow. The paintings scream at her, furious reds, deep blues, swirling blacks that seem to pulse with emotion. Each one feels like a piece of Aisha's soul laid bare. There's pain here, yes, but something else too. Not bitterness, not hatred, forgiveness. Then she sees it. At the far end of the gallery, isolated on its own wall, hangs a single large canvas. A shadow stretches toward a blinding light, fingers almost touching the radiance before dissolving into it. The brushstrokes are softer here, almost tender. The title plaque beneath it reads simply, Asterisk, the shadow that walked into light. Asterisk. Layla's knees nearly buckle. The crowd around her blurs into noise. The air grows thick, impossible to breathe. That shadow, the curve of its back, the angle of its outstretched hand. It's her. Aisha has painted her, not with mockery, but with something dangerously close to compassion. Her vision swims. Hot tears spill over before she can stop them, streaking down her cheeks. She presses a hand to her mouth, choking back a sob. All these months, she told herself Aisha must hate her, that she'd won nothing but her sister's contempt. But this is worse, because Aisha has moved on, and Layla is still trapped in the dark. She stumbles toward the exit, shoulders bumping against strangers who don't notice her distress. The gallery doors swing open too slowly. When she finally bursts onto the sidewalk, the humid New Orleans air slaps her face like a rebuke. She doesn't look back. The house is too quiet when Layla returns. No footsteps echo in the hallway. No coffee cup left half full on the kitchen counter. Kyle's suitcase is gone from their bedroom closet, his shaving kit missing from the bathroom sink. He didn't leave a note this time. She wanders through the rooms like a stranger, seeing everything with new eyes. The turquoise accent wall in the living room, Aisha's favorite color. The bookshelf filled with art monographs and novels Aisha insisted they read together. Even the damn throw pillows arranged just how Aisha liked them. Every corner whispers her sister's name. The realization crashes over her like a wave. She's been living in a museum of Aisha's life, carefully preserving the exhibits, never daring to rearrange anything. She touches the back of the sofa where Aisha used to curl up with sketchbooks, runs fingers along the dining table where they'd shared countless meals. All these years, she thought she was stealing Aisha's life. Instead, she's been its caretaker. Upstairs, the bedroom feels like a crime scene. She opens Kyle's nightstand drawer, neat stacks of folded handkerchiefs, a watch he never wears, and beneath it all, a single photograph turned face down. She doesn't need to flip it over to know who's in it. The mirror across the room catches her reflection. The woman staring back wears Aisha's hairstyle, Aisha's lipstick, Aisha's expression of quiet devastation. With trembling hands, she pulls the pins from her hair, letting the curls fall loose and wild the way they used to before she started taming them. The desk in the corner holds fancy stationery Kyle bought her last birthday, still untouched. She sits down, the chair creaking under her weight, and pulls out a single sheet. The pen hovers over the paper for a long moment before she begins to write. Not to Kyle, who's already gone in every way that matters, but to the one person who might understand what she's lost. Each word feels like peeling off a layer of skin. The ink bleeds in places where her tears fall, but she doesn't stop. For the first time in years, she's not trying to be anyone but herself, broken, jealous, regretful, but finally, terribly honest. When she finishes, she doesn't sign it. The truth between them needs no signature. Outside, a car door slams. Layla doesn't look up. Whether it's Kyle returning or the world moving on without her, it doesn't matter anymore. The letter folds with crisp precision, the crease sharp against her thumb. She licks the envelope slowly, tasting salt and liberation. Tomorrow, she'll mail it. Tonight, she sits in the gathering dark, watching as the last of her illusions dissolve like shadows at dawn. The envelope sits on Aisha's cluttered work table for 3 full days before she opens it. New Orleans humidity has softened the paper, making it curl at the edges like a shy invitation. When she finally slides her palette knife beneath the flap, the tearing sound echoes in her sunlit studio. A single sheet of paper slips out. No greeting, no signature, just 5 words written in a hand she'd recognize anywhere. Asterisk, I am not a shadow anymore. Asterisk, a laugh bubbles up from somewhere deep, not cruel, not bitter, but bright with recognition. Of course, Layla wouldn't apologize. That was never her way. This isn't about forgiveness. It's a declaration. Aisha sets the note aside and reaches for a fresh canvas. The brush in her hand moves with new certainty, mixing colors she hasn't used in years. the warm brown of childhood summers, the gold of shared laughter, the deep purple of secrets whispered under shared blankets. Two figures emerge side by side, close but distinct, their outlines clear and unblurred for the first time. Across town, a Greyhound bus pulls out of the station, its windows streaked with early morning rain. Layla watches Atlanta shrink in the distance through the smudged glass, her reflection superimposed over the disappearing skyline. The keys to the house, Aisha's house sit neatly on Kyle's desk back home, along with her wedding ring. Her duffel bag holds only what's truly hers. Sketchbooks filled with her own drawings. Not Aisha's style, never Aisha's style. A well-worn copy of Their Eyes Were Watching God, her favorite, not her sister's, and a single photograph of two little girls grinning on a porch step, arms slung around each other's shoulders. The bus rolls past swamps where cypress knees rise from murky water like ancient sentinels. Somewhere ahead lies Baton Rouge, then Houston, then maybe the desert beyond. For the first time in her life, the uncertainty tastes sweet. Back in the studio, Aisha steps back from the canvas, wiping paint-streaked hands on her jeans. The twin figures gaze back at her, one radiant, one reflective, both whole. Outside, a jazz trumpet wails down on Frenchman Street, the sound curling through her open window like smoke. Somewhere between Atlanta and the open road, Layla closes her eyes and breathes. The bus hums beneath her, carrying her toward an unknown future, away from a borrowed past. The sun climbs higher, miles unspooled behind them both. And for the first time in their lives, the distance between the sisters feels exactly right. The Greyhound bus rattles down Highway 10, its diesel engine humming a steady rhythm beneath worn seats. Layla presses her forehead against the cool glass window, watching as Atlanta's skyline dissolves into sprawling pine forests and open highway. The morning sun paints the asphalt gold, the road stretching endlessly towards some unknown destination. Her fingers absently trace the edge of a tattered postcard in her lap, a vintage illustration of New Orleans French Quarter she'd found tucked in a library book years ago. The edges are softened from handling, the colors faded. She doesn't need to look at it to know every detail. The wrought iron balconies, the peeling pastel walls, the suggestion of music drifting from some unseen club. A place she's never been, yet somehow knows. 2 rows behind her, a woman laughs, a bright, unself-conscious sound that for a painful moment reminds her of Aisha. Layla closes her eyes, but the image comes anyway. Her sister standing in that sunlit studio in New Orleans, paint smudged across her cheekbone, that particular way she'd tilt her head when a painting was going well. The memory doesn't sting like it once did. In her backpack, between folded clothes and a dog-eared journal, rests the letter she never sent. 3 pages filled with everything she couldn't say out loud. The jealousy, the shame, the terrible longing to be seen as something other than Aisha's sister. She'd written it the night before leaving, then sealed it away like a confession. Some truths are only for yourself. Outside, the landscape shifts, swamp water glittering between cypress trees. Roadside stands selling boiled peanuts and cold soda. The bus rolls past a hand-painted sign, Mobile 67 miles. The air conditioning vents hum, carrying the scent of diesel and someone's cheap perfume. At a rest stop in Alabama, she buys a coffee from a vending machine. The bitter liquid burns her tongue, but she drinks it anyway, watching as other passengers stretch their legs in the parking lot. A little girl in pigtails chases a grasshopper while her mother smokes beneath a pecan tree. For the first time in years, Layla notices how the sunlight filters through leaves, how shadows pool around the picnic tables, how the world is full of small, perfect moments she never allowed herself to see. Back on the bus, she opens her sketchbook to a fresh page. The pencil moves without hesitation, not Aisha's bold strokes, but her own precise lines, capturing the curve of the little girl's smile, the way the mother's shoulders slumped in quiet exhaustion. Her hand doesn't shake. Somewhere in Louisiana, Aisha stands before a new canvas in her French Quarter studio. The painting emerging under her brush is different from anything she's done before. Two figures standing at a crossroads, their paths diverging, but their faces turned toward each other. The colors are softer at the edges, the composition balanced in a way that feels like peace. Outside her window, a second-line parade passes by, brass band wailing, umbrellas spinning like kaleidoscopes. The sound should be distracting, but today it feels like part of the work. She dips her brush in cadmium red, adding one final highlight. The bus crosses the Mississippi state line as the sun dips low. Layla watches the changing light paint the fields in shades of amber and violet. She doesn't know where she'll get off. Maybe Baton Rouge, maybe all the way to El Paso. The uncertainty would have terrified her once. Now it feels like possibility. She leans back in the scratchy seat, the sketchbook open on her lap. The pages ahead are blank, waiting. Somewhere behind her, Atlanta grows smaller. Somewhere ahead, the road unfolds. And for the first time in her life, the space between who she was and who she might become feels exactly wide enough to breathe. The Greyhound bus hums along the sun-baked highway, tires kissing asphalt in a steady rhythm that vibrates through Layla's bones. She presses her fingertips against the warm window glass, watching telephone poles flicker past like a zoetrope animation of her old life receding. The morning light catches the silver band of her bare ring finger. No tan line remains, as if she was never married at all. In her lap, a battered sketchbook lies open to a half-finished drawing. The lines are bolder than her old work, the shading more confident. She traces the emerging contours, not the careful architectural studies Kyle once praised, but something wilder, freer. The beginnings of self-portrait, perhaps, or maybe just a woman's silhouette standing at the edge of an open road. The bus passes a roadside diner where neon still glows despite the daylight. A waitress leans against the doorframe, smoking a cigarette, her pink uniform nearly fluorescent against the peeling paint. Layla's pencil moves almost unconsciously, capturing the slope of the woman's shoulders, the way her head tilts back to exhale smoke toward the sky. For the first time in years, she draws not to prove something, but because the world suddenly seems full of moments worth preserving. 300 miles away, Aisha steps back from her easel, wiping sweat from her forehead with the back of a paint-stained wrist. The New Orleans heat seeps through the tall studio windows, mixing with the scent of linseed oil and turpentine. The nearly finished painting shows two roads diverging through a southern landscape, one lined with magnolias, the other with cypress trees. At the crossroads stand two figures, their backs to the viewer, each facing a different path. A drop of cerulean blue slips from Aisha's brush onto the floor as she studies her work. The composition is balanced in a way her earlier pieces never were. No longer the explosive emotions of her post-Atlanta period, but something quieter, more reflective. Outside, a streetcar rumbles by, its bell clanging twice. The sound used to startle her when she first moved here. Now it's as familiar as her own heartbeat. On the bus, Layla closes her sketchbook as they pass a road sign. New Orleans, 127 miles. The numbers make her breath catch. She hadn't realized how far south she'd come. Through the window, the landscape has changed. The red clay of Georgia replaced by black Delta soil, the pines giving way to gnarled oaks dripping with Spanish moss. Somewhere ahead, the highway will fork. One road leads into the city, past jazz clubs and art galleries and a certain studio in the French Quarter. The other continues west toward Texas, toward deserts and mountains and places she's never seen. Layla's fingers tighten around her pencil. She doesn't know which exit the bus will take. Doesn't know where she'll get off. The uncertainty thrums in her chest like a second heartbeat. Not fear, but possibility. Aisha sets her brush in a jar of murky solvent. The painting isn't perfect. The light on the left path needs adjusting. The shadows on the right could be deeper. But for the first time in years, she looks at her work and doesn't see anger or grief staring back. Just truth. She walks to the window, pushing it open wider. The humid air rushes in, carrying the scent of jasmine from the courtyard below. Somewhere out there, the world turns. Somewhere out there, Roads stretch toward horizons. And for the first time in their lives, the distance between the sisters feels not like a wound, but like breathing room.